And
This meeting is being recorded.
okay, wonderful. All right, so here we go. Welcome. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the Fidalgo Democrats Zoom meeting tonight. My name is Barbara Cooper, and I'm the chair of the Fidalgo Democrats. And the Fidalgo Democrats are an independent democratic association with a focus on education. I want to remind everyone that we are not a PAC. We cannot endorse candidates or contribute to their campaigns. We'd like to start the meeting with an acknowledgement. Sarah Peterson, would you please do that for us?
Thank you, Barbara. We, the Fidalgo Democrats, acknowledge that we gather on Indigenous land, the traditional territory stewarded by the Coast Salish, particularly the Samish and the Swinomish people. We pay our respect to their elders of the past, present, and future.
Thank you very much. And just quickly, we're going to have another meeting next month on October 11th. And we've invited two speakers from the Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action. And they're going to be discussing the privatization of Medicare. With this, it's called ACO REACH program. And their focus is on what we can do to stop it. It's really something that's kind of under the radar for a lot of people. But I did want to mention that we will have a meeting in October. The gala for the Skagit Democrats is October 8th. If you need more information, you can go to their website. Bob Dole is very active and involved. He's on tonight. So maybe at the end of the meeting, if people need more information, they can stay on and talk with him. Our Zoom host is Brad. If anybody has it, Brad Kluwer. If anyone has any problems, he can help you off screen here. He's going to handle the muting and unmuting. And I won't bother explaining that now. We can talk about that later. And the meeting is being recorded, and Rita Sullivan is our videographer, and it will be in a couple of days, it'll be on YouTube. So if you know somebody who's missed the meeting, please let them know. So here we go now. This is, I'm going to talk with the candidates. I'd like to thank all of you for coming and taking the time tonight. I know this is a really busy time for candidates, so I really appreciate you being willing to take the time to come and talk to us. It's really important what you're doing for Washington State and for the whole country. So thank you. The format's going to be pretty simple and straightforward. We're going to have each candidate have 5 minutes. We have a timer, and Brad's going to help me run the timer. If you want to talk for the full 5 minutes, that's great. If you don't, that's great. And afterwards, right after you talk, we'll have time for a couple of questions. And then at the end, if people are still around and still have questions, we can, fill in at the end. If you want to put your candidate information in the chat, that would be very, very helpful. So if people want to contact you or want to contact the campaign to donate or just to help out, if they have that chat information, that would be great. So I'll leave that up to you. And I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to ask Sandy Perkins, who's running for Skagit County Auditor, to go first because she's not feeling well tonight. And so she asked if she could come and then come off. So Sandy, if you, would come on now and talk for a few minutes and let us know how things are going, that would be great.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, Barbara. And good evening, friends and neighbors. I feel like my Fidalgo Democrat supporters know me better than anyone, so I'll make this short. We've made great strides over the last 4 years in all areas of the auditor's office. I've increased efficiencies and decreased costs in accounting, recording, licensing, and elections. In elections, we've increased the physical security of our office, especially security cameras, and pass card door locks. I purchased a ballot sorter scanner using federal grant funds, not local tax dollars. That's a $250,000 machine that has greatly decreased the time it takes to process ballots and get election results. But as you know, our democracy is facing a critical time. I have a Republican opponent who we can't allow to become auditor. I'm by far the most qualified candidate to keep our elections free from fraud, and I've proudly held the designation of certified fraud examiner for 20 years, demonstrating I'm an expert in both fraud prevention and detection. I've also studied cybersecurity for over 15 years, and to ensure that our elections are safe, secure, and adhere to all Washington election laws. Sorry. So I just wanted to ask for your support again to keep me in office for the next 4 years. I'll put my contact information in the chat, and if you can help with a donation or with fundraising or doorbelling, I'd surely appreciate it. And I thank you so very much for your ongoing support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sandy, for coming. I hope you feel
Yes.
better soon.
Oh, thank you.
So you take care. Okay, we're gonna, I'm going to go and the next person I was going to ask is Kate Baumgartner, who is the political director for Senator Murray. And so Kate, could you, there you are. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Barbara. Thanks so much. Hi, folks. My name is Kate Baumgartner. I'm political director to Senator Murray. Happy to be with all of the Fidalgo Dims this evening. Thank you for having me. Wanted to say how important it is to have your support this fall, that we're all working together to make sure that we send Senator Murray back to DC. Senator Murray is fighting for all of us, whether that's the work that she does to protect reproductive freedom, where the Washington Post has called her the single most effective senator in DC who's fighting for reproductive freedom and working to codify Roe, or the work that she's done to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. So our seniors can afford prescription drugs and we can make landmark investments in climate action, or the work that she's doing here at home in our communities. We know that folks around the Skagit Valley were deeply impacted by floods this fall. Senator Murray's fought hard to make sure that the flooding infrastructure is in place around Mount Vernon so we can push back against the real impacts of climate change that we're seeing. She's a champion for our communities and we need her in DC. Conversely, she has a Republican opponent who said that she agrees with the Texas abortion law, who continues to question the results of the 2020 election. Just last week on CNN, she refused to say that President Biden was fairly and legitimately elected. So the stakes are real, and certainly don't need to tell any of you that. Senator Murray never takes an election for granted. This year is no exception, and we need all of your support to help doing that. The Washington State Coordinated Campaign is our boots on the ground when it comes to field efforts and direct voter contact. So would encourage you to sign up for shifts for the great work that they're doing in the 10th and the 40th and around the region. I know Canvas efforts are already starting, as are phone banks and statewide auto dialer nights on Sundays. I'll drop a link in the chat to find events near to you. That support is really important and critical. I'll also share that we have Patty Murray literature and campaign signs on hand in the Skagit Dims office, so please feel free to connect with the local volunteers there if you're interested in more materials. That will be really helpful to get the word out as well. I'll leave an email in the chat, happy to answer any questions. Feel free to reach out to me anytime that I can be helpful, and excited to stay in touch with all of you for the GOTV season and communicate about how we're making sure that we send Senator Murray back to DC, keep the 10th blue and make it even bluer, and keep our great electeds in the 40th. So I will leave it on that. Thanks so much for having me and looking forward to staying in touch.
Great. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And thank Senator Murray for all that she's doing. Really, we're very lucky to have her. So if anyone has any questions right now, we can ask them. If not, we'll just move on to the next. Okay. I saw that Hannah Oliver has come on. She's working with Rick Larson. She's the campaign manager. So Hannah, could you come on?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Can
Thank
you see me?
so
Okay,
much,
awesome.
Hannah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm actually his field director,
Oh,
but
sorry.
similar. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah Oliver. I live in Skagit County. I'm Rick Larson's field director. He was unable to come tonight, but I'm happy that I was able to come. So with the primary now behind us, we're really focusing on winning in November and keeping the 2nd congressional district blue, and also keeping Congress blue in general. So Rick, in this race, he's the only candidate to support codifying abortion rights and banning assault weapons, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The only candidate in the race who believes in climate change. He's the only candidate who's gonna fight for expanding access to childcare and equal pay for women. And I could really go on, but I won't. It's really important that we have all of your support to keep Congressman Larson in office. So again, so sorry that he couldn't be here tonight, but I'm really happy to be here. I will put my email in the chat if any of you have any questions, or if you want to volunteer, if you want to sign. I do have to make a bunch of signs. We don't have stakes right now, so I got to make them. But we will have signs for you if you want to donate, volunteer in any way. Please reach out, let me know. My email will be in the chat. Yeah, thank you for inviting us here tonight.
Well, thank you, Hannah, for coming. Does anybody
Yeah.
have any questions for Hannah? She's, or indirectly for Rick Larson.
Mhm.
Okay. I think these two candidates we're pretty familiar with. They've been around for a while, so we're really lucky to have them in our state. So we have the Secretary of State. I saw that Julie Anderson is here. She's running as an independent. And I'm pretty sure I saw her come on in. So Julie, are you still here?
I am. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Chair Cooper. And just a note, I'm not running as an independent. I am running as a nonpartisan candidate. And
Okay,
if we have time, we'll get into the distinction between the two. I'm here tonight to introduce myself to Fidalgo Democrats. I'm not seeking and would not accept an endorsement, but I think it's important to introduce myself to everybody. My name is Julie Anderson, running as the nonpartisan candidate for Secretary of State and running as the candidate with experience. I have nearly 13 years of professional experience running elections, conducting elections in Washington State as the Pierce County Auditor. So that means experience running hundreds of elections through 2 presidential cycles, leading an award-winning team with national and state recognition, managing recorded documents, preserving them, and sorry, I was distracted by that note, preserving them and making them accessible to the public, and then also business licensing. All 3 of those experience areas touch directly to the Secretary of State's office. A little bit more about myself. I was raised in a military family and have a professional background in, that's maybe a little unlikely, in human services, in community corrections, and in economic development. I've served on the Tacoma City Council, was elected twice, served for 6 years, and was then recruited to run for the Pierce County Auditor. Now, unlike Skagit County, at least I don't, Pierce County's charter made the county auditor nonpartisan. So our voters decided a long time ago that an election administrator that they would prefer to not have affiliated with the political party. And that has worked really well in Pierce County. I have national and state certifications in election administration, and I'm also a state certified public records officer. I'm very passionate about maintaining records and making them accessible to the public because it's a key role in holding government accountable. I want to spend most of my time, I think, answering questions that you have. There are a lot of rumors swirling around out there about me. I've heard some of them, and I really want to set the record straight. In brief, I'm looking forward to expanding access to elections. We have really excellent set of election laws here in Washington State, but we can always do better, and expanding access to democracy is going to require experience, some technical detail, and a lot of creativity, because getting residual gains in turnout and getting more people to participate means that we're going to have to start paying more attention to specialized needs of voters living with disabilities, and other people who may be sitting out on the sidelines because they still have barriers. So we've done a great job in Washington State. I want to preserve it and protect it, but I also want to expand access. And that can be through language. It can be through more in-person services on election day to help stranded voters. And it can also be making more accommodations and a more inviting election environment for people living with disabilities. So I would love to answer questions.
Okay, we have a little bit of time. Brad, I was going to ask you if you can, after Julia's done, if we could please set up the video for Steve Hobbs. But let me ask, does anybody have any questions for Julie here? You know, if not, here, if people are being shy, we can, she can put in her information and you could contact her afterwards. It looks like Alex raised his hand, so thank you.
I don't know if candidates are allowed to ask questions in this forum, Barbara, but I've got one if anybody else does. Thanks for being here tonight, Joy. Can you tell us a little bit about your position and your thoughts on some of the ideas like ranked choice voting, or I understand Seattle may be looking at a similar proposal where you sort of indicate all of the candidates that you approve of. That's a little bit different. Can you talk us through your position on some of those kinds of ideas?
Absolutely. I want to also point out that I've got the sole endorsement of the National Women's Political Caucus, the sole endorsement of the Alliance of Gun Responsibility, and the sole endorsement of Fair Vote. I think Fair Vote was attracted to my candidacy not just because they have years of experience working with me as an advocacy organization, but because I do have an open mind and support the local option bill for ranked choice voting. And I'm going to put my website in the chat so you guys, because I've actually written quite a bit about what my position is. So ranked choice voting is going to be on the ballot in 3 different jurisdictions in Washington State this November: Clark County, San Juan County, as well as Seattle, the city of Seattle. And ranked choice voting is in use in over 50 jurisdictions nationwide. So it's not a matter of if ranked choice voting is going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen and in what form in Washington State. I'm supporting the local option bill because I do want some standardization. Right now, local jurisdictions that are charter or first-class cities can just start using ranked choice voting and applying it in any way that they want. And I don't want other jurisdictions to go through what Pierce County went through, which is making up rules and trying to find certified tested equipment all by themselves. So I really want some standardization, some good standards, and I want to support the jurisdictions that choose ranked choice voting. And it's all about, for me, local choice. And that's something I support. That's a value for me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, well, the information is in the chat, so please feel free to contact Julie Anderson, and thank you for clarifying that you're not an independent and that there's a difference, and I'm going to look that up, but we don't unfortunately have a lot of time tonight, but I'd really like to find out more
Some other
information.
time.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're
And,
welcome.
Brad,
And I've
can-
got, and I've
oh,
got
good.
lots of, all of my positions are on my website. So if you do have time, please take a look at that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And Brad, can you put on the video? I kind of have to depend on Brad for my,
Certainly, and then Julie pushed her URL and email in the chat too, by the way.
Okay,
So
great.
you ready for Steve Hobbs?
yeah, he's not able to make it tonight, but he did send that video and I sent you the link. So. Okay, here we go.
Washington State has a strong tradition of free and fair elections, but we can never take that freedom for granted. No matter our background, we all believe that for democracy to work for all of us, it must include all of us. All voters should have the freedom to vote equally, but there are still a handful of politicians that want to put up barriers. I know that Secretary of State's office is the last line of defense to protect our democracy and preserve the will of the voters. That's why I'm honored to serve in this office. I am a proud son of an Asian immigrant who raised me to work hard, value education, and serve others. I've worn the uniform for more than 30 years. Currently, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Washington Army National Guard, and I served 2 tours of duty in Kosovo and Iraq. Recently, I commanded more than 750 members in Task Force Olympic, our Western Washington response mission to the COVID-19 pandemic. I've outlined 3 areas where I will fight to protect and strengthen public trust in the state and county-run election systems. Security operations, further protecting the online parts of election systems from cyber attack by malicious actors, foreign or domestic. Information integrity, answering the unintentional misinformation and intentional disinformation that can crop up regarding elections. Equity and voter outreach, deploying resources that can serve all counties to make sure eligible voters have the education and resources necessary to register and to vote. I will work every day to ensure that our American values of free and fair elections are honored, that we sustain our democracy to ensure every voice matters and every vote is counted, and that we demand accountability and transparency in every aspect of elections, from the Secretary of State's office to the smallest county auditor's office. I couldn't be more honored to serve in this role, and I would be proud to have your support and vote as Secretary of State.
Okay,
Homeowners, have you seen these insane headlines from the Wall Street Journal? First, why your electric bill is soaring and likely to go higher.
okay, I'm not sure what that is. There's a little bit of something going on. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for your help for doing that. Steve couldn't come tonight, and so he sent the video instead. Again, if you want to contact him, his website is steve@electhobbs.com. And so you can contact him there and find out more information. The next person I was going to ask is Dan Hagan. He's running for Skagit County Assessor. And Dan, I have you down as an independent, but you might be running as a nonpartisan. So now that I know there's a difference, learning all the time. Dan, are you still here?
I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Dan. I'm sorry, I'm losing
Nope.
people in the.
Not a problem. And Julie, I would love to hear your magic in passing a charter because the assessor should be a nonpartisan position. I'm running as an independent because the rules won't let me run as nonpartisan for this partisan position. So I will get started. Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me. My name is Danny Hagan and I'm running for Skagit County Assessor. First, who am I? I am the son of Wesley and Kathy Hagan, 2 of the best parents to ever do it. I was raised between Bow Hill and LaConner with my 4 biological brothers and my 10 foster brothers that my family started taking in when I was 12 years old. My wife Nicole and I have 4 children, 3 boys aged 8, 5, and 2, and our baby girl is 1.5 years old. I'm living an incredibly busy and blessed life. So what qualifies me for the office of assessor? First, I have the experience and relevant knowledge required to fulfill the duties of the office. In the almost 8 years I've been in the office, I have excelled at complex appraisals, database administration, utilizing GIS capabilities, Board of Equalization appeals, difficult customer interactions, and sales analysis. I'm the first member of the Skagit County Assessor's Office to be an IAAO professional member and only a few steps away from attaining my Mass Appraisal Specialist designation, becoming only the second person in the state of Washington to do so. I'm a published author in IAAO's Fair and Equitable, and I was a featured speaker at the GIS CAMA National Conference in Portland. Second, I have the leadership characteristics and habits needed to lead the assessor's office. Since being co-class speaker of Leadership Skagit class of 2018, I've been a leadership junkie. For the Leadership Skagit classes of 2019 and 2020, I was a team advisor. For the classes of 21 and 22, I increased my involvement and became a master advisor, as well as a member of the curriculum committee. And this year, I'm the theme lead for leadership and teams. Modeling the way and enabling others to act are two of the guiding leadership principles I use every day. I'm currently enrolled in the National Association of Counties High Performance Leadership Program designed by General Colin Powell. Lastly, my passion for Skagit County, its residents, and public service is unwavering. I was raised here and I am now blessed to be able to raise my family here. Besides the multiple sports teams I coach with my kids, I am the vice chair of the board of directors for Chinook Enterprises, past president of Cedar Woolley Shine and Rise Toastmasters, proud Rotarian with the Burlington Rotary Club, treasurer of the Lacana Youth Soccer Association, and past volunteer of the Skagit County Special Olympics. A healthy and resilient community for all of us to live in is a top priority of mine. So what are the most pressing issues for the assessor's office? 3 things: maintaining a capable and content workforce in such unique times, the lack of understanding of Washington State's property tax system among so many of its stakeholders, and continuous changes to Washington State's property tax law without much time or resources to adjust. How would I handle these issues? 3 things: education, education, and education. Using my background working on the Leadership Skagit curriculum, I want to create a thorough, in-depth, and adaptable training program within the Skagit County Assessor's Office. Currently, we only have educational offerings sponsored by the Department of Revenue. I want to create a series of half-day and full-day lesson plans that fast-track the training of our appraisal and administrative staff working in our office. This will help in the recruitment of workforce talent and in the retention of the current talent on staff. I want to educate Skagit County residents on how the Washington State property tax system works, and I am planning on engaging in a similar educational campaign. By creating and using short videos, informative publications, and an increased public engagement strategy, I hope to increase the awareness of our state's budget-based property tax system. An annual informational presentation offered to first-time homeowners and all others interested, followed by a Q&A session, would be another tool I would hope to add to our educational toolbox. The last part of my education strategy revolves around education of our state legislators. With many years of relationship building, industry-specific knowledge, and a foundational understanding of property tax assessment principles, I want to really educate the people who write our laws and to help them understand how our system works. I want to break down communication barriers across partisan lines and become known as someone that can be trusted for unbiased information regarding assessments. I will put my website in the chat box where you can find more information about me and my campaign. Are there any questions from the crowd?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming, Dan. Thank you for running for assessor. I know you've been in that office for a while. So appreciate you coming and thank you for all you do. I'm going to have Jermaine, who's running for the Public Utility District Commissioner. Jermaine, are you?
Yep.
You are
Hi,
great.
thank you so much for all of this. I'm just in the middle of doorbelling. I think I'm going to miss the daylight. Well, I'm your PUD commissioner now. I am an incumbent and current board vice president, Skagit small business owner of 30 years of Animal House Pet Grooming, and former city council member in Cedar Woolley. I'm also a Skagit Valley College and WWU graduate with a degree in human services, because I feel like While humans drink the water and pay the bills. And my true interest for Skagit PUD and local government experience was recognized when I was unanimously appointed in August of 2020. I became the first woman to ever serve on Skagit PUD Commission since it was established in 1936. And as you can imagine, also the first person of color here in Skagit County. I have lots of local contributions to my community since I've lived here for the last 30 years. I was brought out here being in the, my ex-husband being in the Navy. I was a Navy wife in Philadelphia, and we moved here. I left everything behind and started fresh here. And some of the things I've done over the last 2 years, I'm very proud of every vote I've ever taken. We've had some environmental impacts, some farming community impacts, water quality, infrastructure happening, and we had to deal with financial hardship. And we came to some resolutions for that over the pandemic. I did put my website on the chat. It is germaineforpud.com, and I also have a very active Facebook page. I don't technically post everything I'm doing in my campaign because, I mean, I'm not here to give lessons on what I'm doing, but believe me, I am knocking on doors. And so far, I must have about 1,500 doors done just myself. I would love some help with that. And I'm getting a little help too. I understand there's other campaigns and we can coordinate together. Also, I have some local endorsements from local officials. And I just last night found that I have IBEW 191 and Teamsters 231. And anyways, I didn't know if there are any questions for me. I don't know if there's anything more I can say. I would say my future plans will just be to keep protecting the environment and our water quality. Here, I know Anacortes doesn't deal with our water so much, but we did provide some infrastructure for the broadband, other parts, and we also did just give you guys Fidalgo for your own customers. We had to, so we repaired the infrastructure in order to make that happen, so that you have your own customers or your customers. It saves us all money. So I don't know if you knew about that, but that's my claim to fame. I don't know if there's any questions yeah, and I don't know if I should mention I have signs as well in literature. See?
I mean, how long have you been public commissioner for the public?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So I was appointed 2 years ago.
Okay.
In August of 2020. There were 19 of us that went for the appointment, and my opponent is one of them that went for the appointment. But unanimously, I was chosen for the position.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have a question from Valit. Valit? Valit? You have a question?
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Germaine, thank you, Barbara. Germaine, thank you very much for your service. It's wonderful to have you on the pod. Very quickly, if you don't mind, what's the likelihood of us having here in Skagit County a disaster similar to Jackson, Florida? You know, I'm hoping we're not there, but.
Well, to be honest, of course, I'm a little biased, but I don't think that the way I see things running, for one, we get along. The three commissioners actually get along for a change. Imagine that. And the history has been that they talked about things and didn't ever agree on things. So things like infrastructure, like the pipeline that you see going in, that was talked about 25 years ago. We could have saved so much money had they just done it then. And so infrastructure is something that all three of us commissioners agree on, and we're getting it done. We're actually getting, we got the micro hydro project done, and we get another one done. We're all about the infrastructure. And to be honest, I just don't see something like that happening here. We spend the money on our infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on, Jermaine. I just want folks to know, Trevor Smith is running for the state representative in the 40th. He's a Democrat, and he is unable to attend tonight. He's at a Whatcom City Council meeting. So the next person I'm going to ask to talk is Alex Rammel, who is currently our state representative, one of them for the 40th. Alex?
Thanks, Barbara. It's good to
Thanks,
see everybody tonight. Thanks for the invitation to speak. My name is Alex Rammel. I'm state representative for the 40th. I've had the honor to be in this position now for the last 3 years. I'm running for re-election, and I'd be honored to have all of your support. I'll speak for just a moment or two about some of the top priorities that I've focused on in the legislature and that I've been hearing about, talking to voters at the doors. And I'll talk about some of the dynamics in this race. So I don't think it will come as a surprise to folks to hear me say that we're in a housing crisis. In this region, our housing costs have increased at a pace that outstrips inflation. And that means for many of us, our biggest monthly expense has gone up faster than the costs of other goods. That impacts impact lands disproportionately on people of color and low-income communities. Bottom line, folks, is we need more homes and we need to keep them affordable. So over the past 2 years, I've worked to advance multifamily housing tax incentive that will increase the number of homes built in cities. And we've made that accessible to smaller cities like Anacortes as well. Sorry for the background noise from the train going by my house. In the next 2 years, you can expect me to work to expand the supply of housing. And I will continue to be a champion for the Housing Trust Fund investments that are so important to affordability. My background in energy policy and environmental advocacy has meant I've moved quickly into a leadership position in our caucus on climate policy. I've passed legislation that's made sure our grid is ready for vehicle electrification, worked to improve the carbon footprint of our government buildings, and to make Washington a leader in green hydrogen. With the passage of the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, thanks to our federal officials, I'm excited to make sure Washington's leadership is recognized and we make absolute most of the opportunity created by those federal resources. We should have a statewide energy efficiency retrofit program that'll help make sure everybody is able to bring down their energy costs. And we can do that while creating tens of thousands of good living wage construction jobs. So in the legislature, I have risen to join the House Democrats leadership team and essentially on the small council of advisors to the Speaker of the House. And I've been elected by the House Democrats to serve as the Deputy Majority Whip. Up here in the Northwest corner, I've worked closely with our Senator Lovelit, and seatmate Deborah Lakanoff, and the other representatives from around the Northwest corner, including Brent Paul there, just to make sure that we kind of cover all of the bases for our community. What I want you all to hear is that legislating is a team sport, and I do everything I can to be a good team player. So turning now just to the dynamics in this election, I want to be direct about this race. I believe that labor and environmental leaders have to work together, and I have a track record of governing in that way. Trevor is a good guy, and you're not going to hear me criticize him at all. But there's a political action committee that has jumped into this race. It's funded by oil and gas industry and their allies, and that is a different matter. In the primary, their massive expenditure was a calculated chessboard move. It's a misdirection aimed at taking resources and energy away from other Democrats in more vulnerable districts. This Democrat versus Democrat race is a distraction in a year when national Republicans are aiming squarely at undermining our democracy, at banning abortion and other reproductive health care. And they've got their eyes set on taking away other freedoms like marriage equality, and they want to undermine our public education system. Folks, we can't take our eye off the ball. As a voter, you get to pick only one of us, and I ask you to consider that there is one strong Democrat who represents our community's values, who's risen to party leadership and who's delivering for Northwest Washington. If you decide to support me, and I hope you will, you'll be joining lots of other great organizations and folks who've already done the same, like the Skagit Democrats, the San Juan Democrats, the Whatcom County Democrats, and the 40th District Democrats, also endorsements. I've been endorsed by the Swinomish, the Lummi, and Nooksack Nations, by Planned Parenthood votes, Pro-Choice Washington, for the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, the Low Income Housing Alliance, Washington Conservation Voters, and the Sierra Club. I'm also endorsed by Governor Inslee, the Speaker of the House, and the Majority Leader in the Senate, more than 70 local and state elected leaders. I'm also endorsed by unions representing firefighters, healthcare workers, nurses, teachers, transit workers, public school employees, machinists, Teamsters, many, many more who have endorsed only this campaign in this race. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks to so many of you who have jumped in to support me. I'm looking forward to answering questions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Are there any questions for Alex? Make sure you all put your information into the chat so people can contact you if they want to. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all you've done the last few years. The next, we're going to go to the 10th. Clyde, if you could.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, everyone, for coming here together on a Tuesday evening. Like Barbara said, my name is Clyde Shavers, and I am running for position 1 in the 10th Legislative District. So in 36 days, ballots will be mailed out to you and every voter in our district. So in those 2 weeks of voting, we face the choice. Do we hope that the future takes care of itself? Or are we going to make sure we come together and determine our country's and our home's course and character? Do we take part in active democracy? So tonight, I'm asking each and every one of you to call your friends, to doorbell your neighbors, and to write to your colleagues so that we all can come together and build a world where everyone, no matter who they are, what they believe in, what they think, is empowered to control their own destiny. And that means building a world where every woman can say, I determine my own future. I make my own choice. That government has no business in my private healthcare decisions. A world where our children and their children can learn and grow in a safe school environment, where everyone can afford quality healthcare with low prescription drug prices, and a world where future generations, our kids and their kids, can live in a clean and healthy environment just like us right now, because of what we do today and what we do in the next 36 days and how we vote in 2 weeks. I believe that this year, this election is one of the most important elections, at least in my short lifetime. So I'm just really appreciative of everyone being here today, taking time to listen to me. And if it's okay with you, Barbara, I would just love to open the floor for any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions for Clyde?
I can't be that good.
It's a very shy audience, which is very unusual for Democrats. Usually they're not shy. So anyway.
Tell us a little bit about how your campaign's going, Clyde.
Oh,
Sure,
okay.
great.
Good idea.
Yeah, for sure. So Dave, Paul, and I are both working very hard in the 10th. As many of you all know, the 10th is one of the closest or most purple districts in Washington State. So both of our races have been very close in the primary. But what's amazing is that both of us came out on top in the primary. So Dave Paul received 54% of the vote, and I received 52% of the vote. So both of us are charging forward. And the great news is, you know, the 52% and the 54% means that both of us have garnered support and votes from both sides, from Republicans, from independents, and Democrats, because our campaign is focused on ensuring that everyone comes together, that we are hearing every single voice from the farmers in Arlington and in Skagit County to the small business owners in Langley, to the veterans in Oak Harbor and in Fidalgo. So we're doing quite well, and we're using the momentum and the motivation of voters now to push forward in the general. So we're very confident and very excited.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And Dave Paul.
Hey, Barbara, thanks so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we sure can.
It's so nice to see everybody. So hi, folks. For those who don't know me, I'm State Representative Dave Paul. My family and I live in Oak Harbor. It's been a crazy day. We're in the first week, right when just before classes start at the Skagit Valley College. So I'm getting ready for my classes for fall quarter. And we are running a really good campaign and still working with good folks like Representative Alex Rammel on legislative work. So I've served for 4 years in the state legislature. I'd like to serve 2 more years and work on your behalf in Olympia. As Clyde mentioned, this is a swing district. And 4 years ago when I ran for office, we had 3 conservative lawmakers, and that didn't really represent our district very well because the district is a moderate district that voted for Hillary Clinton by a point. And we saw 2 years ago, it voted for President Biden by a point. And so I worked really hard 4 years ago and got elected, and haven't stopped working since. So it's been a pleasure working with Representative Rammel and Senator Lovelett on ferries. Sorry, the dogs are starting to bark. We've been working hard on climate change and protecting women's reproductive rights and rights of the LGBTQ community. And as Alex mentioned, housing affordability is a tremendous issue in our community and in our state. I think that'll be one of the top 3 issues that's being addressed, that will be addressed next year in the legislature. And I'm hearing that loud and clear as we're talking to folks at the door. Also hearing a lot about women, both young women and women who are old enough to remember life before Roe v. Wade, that are very upset about the recent Supreme Court decision. And we've got to work hard to better protect those rights in Washington State. And I'd like to see a constitutional amendment to do that. I spend a lot of my time focused on education, and both at the K-12 level, but also thinking about post-secondary education, so helping folks find family wage jobs after they graduate from high school, and focusing a lot on making sure that our young people have mental health supports, both in high school and college, but also in our community. And I think I bring a unique perspective of my work with our high schools and community technical colleges, our unions and employers, to help with career and technical training pathways so that folks have multiple opportunities to find those family wage jobs and not just going to a 4-year college and university. In our race, we've done a great job. As Clyde mentioned, we won the primary with 54% of the vote, but we've got a lot of silent money coming in the race. I was looking up the figures. Independent group is spending $100,000 for my opponent that was just announced this week. It certainly does not look independent to me. It looks like my opponent's campaign ad. So I know many of you have donated to my campaign. I would love to have your help with donations, and we are really working hard to talk to voters directly and knock on their doors. I'm going to hit 2,000 doors by the between the primary and the general election. I'm about a third there. The campaign's going to hit 8,000 doors, and we're about a third there with the campaign. But we always go out in pairs, and we'd love to have your help to go with either one of our campaign interns or one of our volunteers. And with that, I'd rather, if you folks have questions or concerns, I'd rather answer those than talk, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to the Fidalgo Democrats this evening.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions for Dave here? Okay. So
good to see everybody this evening.
Yeah, okay, great. I was going to ask Julie Brunson to say hi. Hi, Julie. Are you still on?
Actually, it's
Oh,
Jackie.
great. Jackie, why do I have your name Julie? I'm so sorry. I knew that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Wrote it
That's
down.
okay. Well, I want to thank you for the invite for tonight. And I want to thank also everybody for coming out and educating themselves on everybody's races. Mine isn't nearly as glamorous as like Alex or Dave's or Clyde's, but thanks to you guys, I was elected county treasurer 4 years ago, and I'm running for re-election this year. Luckily, I'm running unopposed. I attribute most of that to the amazing staff that I have and how they've embraced change, positive change over the last few years. And, in the treasurer's office, we're more of a regional position. We act as treasurer for all the junior taxing districts as well as the county. And we collect about $250 million a year in property taxes. And we have an investment portfolio of about $600 million. And then we also act as an agent at the DOR for excise tax. We don't, the only policy that we really affect is our county investment policy and debt policy. But I hate to, it's still fun and it's still meaty and it's a lot of fun. But in addition to the important work going on in the treasurer's office, I also serve as the chair of the county's finance committee. And last year I was elected to serve as the legislative chair for my statewide organization for Washington County Treasurers Association. Probably one of the most rewarding things that I've done since becoming treasurer, besides working with the taxpayers, is working with our legislators and trying to find common ground on legislation that affects me and our taxpayers and the other treasurers in the state. As most of you know, I'm a native Skagitonian, born and raised here. In August, I celebrated my 30th year with Skagit County, serving the citizens of Skagit County in different capacities. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I'm a graduate of Leadership Skagit. My husband, Dave, who's kind of hiding, he hangs out with me a lot. He's been hanging out with me for almost 30 years. And we have 2 adult daughters. One is a special education teacher, and the other one is a physical therapist in your neighborhood. She's just actually started working for Proliant Surgeons in Anacortes. With that being said, again, I appreciate your support. I appreciated it 4 years ago. I appreciate it today, even though I'm running unopposed. I love the job. I love public service, and I look forward to the next 4 years.
Great. Thank you so much.
And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm all about educating people on what we do at the county, even beyond the treasurer's office.
Okay. If anybody
Can I
wants,
just say another word too? Is, I don't know if this is against the rules or not, but I encourage you to check out Danny Hagan, who's running for assessor. He works across the hall from me, and he's very qualified, and he's a good person, very knowledgeable. He's smart, and he's a great leader. So I'd encourage you to check him out.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions for Jackie? And again, if you want to talk with her or ask questions, I'm sure that she's open to doing that. I'm so glad you're running unopposed.
Me too.
Well, I hear your husband in the background saying me too. I could imagine.
Yeah, well, he's kind of my do-it guy. He's my sign guy. He's the fundraiser. He's the everything. So he got the summer off.
Right. All right. I think that is all the candidates we have here. Melissa Beaton wasn't able to make it. She's running for Skagit County Clerk, and she's running unopposed as well. And then Don McDermott, who's running for Skagit County Sheriff, he is not running unopposed, but he was unable to make it tonight either. So those are the folks that are running, and we've heard from. As you know, Lisa Janicki is running for Skagit County Commissioner. Deborah's McCanoff is running, and she has no opponent, so that's really good. I think that kind of is gets everybody. We have everybody that is here. I hope if there's anyone that I missed, please feel free to jump in and let me know. Okay, so we're gonna go on. If anyone has any questions for any of the candidates or would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. You can use the reactions button, and it has the bottom of your screen, and it has a little hand raising icon. So if anyone has any questions or comments, please raise your hands and let me know, and I can call on you. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay, I see Valit has raised his hand.
Thank you, Barbara. I was curious, the relationship between Jackie and Dan. Like if Jackie runs out of money, she would go in and ask Dan to raise a raise. Is that, I'm just curious about that.
Well, it's funny is a lot of people call my office to complain about things that Dan needs to talk to them about. So we like to pass the buck. My office really, a lot of people don't understand the treasurer's office is only responsible for being a tax collector. We don't do the assessments. We don't do the valuations. We just calculate the tax and send the bills out. And Dan's office is very important in that, they do all the valuations, and, that's where people's main complaint comes in, I think. So yeah, I like to pass the buck to Danny, but, I didn't elaborate much, but the assessor and the treasurer, we do really have a really close working relationship. And I've enjoyed working with Dave Thomas over the last few years, but I've been working closely with Danny as well, and he's a good kid.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add to that, because the treasurer is just collecting of the taxes. The assessor's office is the administrator of property taxes. We have to make sure that we're following all the proper exemptions, making sure that our seniors are in the senior exemption program, our open space programs are being taxed properly. But I also want to point out that the state of Washington does not have a rate-based tax system. It's a budget-based tax system. So the taxes that are allowed to be collected are legally controlled at a 1% increase plus new construction for every taxing district. So if your assessed value goes up, let's say 20%, like last year, it's not going to mean a 20% increase in your taxes. It's just, that's going to be your portion of the pie that you are in order to pay the property taxes. It is something that's not really well known. And so educating Skagit County on what a budget-based system is definitely a priority of mine. And I think if people understood it, they would appreciate it more, and they'd actually have a lot more respect for all the hard work that our office and the treasurers do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, we're still.
Aren't you glad you asked a question, Valit?
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, are there any other questions for any of the candidates? We have time. We're just a minute before 8 o'clock, so we have some time if people have questions. The other thing I want to mention is if you want to stay on after the meeting, please feel free once we're have the questions answered. Okay, I see Sarah Peterson has got her hand up.
Yeah, Barbara, I wanted to mention, especially to the candidates, that we've gotten a lot of views on our videos after these candidate forums.
Yes.
So keep an eye out for the video when it comes out at a link, and you all can send it out if you choose to do that. But we usually get plenty of audience for the follow-up on this kind of an event. So that makes it worth your while for having joined us, and we really appreciate you coming.
No, thank you, Sarah. That's a very good point. Okay, are there any other questions for any of the candidates or anything else you'd like to say? Okay, well, if there are no more comments and no more questions, we'll just end the meeting, and I'll stay on for a few more minutes if anyone would like to chat with me or with each other. I can't thank you all enough for coming and taking the time. I know this is just a horribly busy time for you all. You're doing your own personal lives and campaigning. So good luck to everyone. I hope your campaigns continue to go smoothly and that we'll see a lot of Democrats winning. So thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Barbara, thanks for doing all the work to organize everybody. Brad, Rita, Sarah, thanks for all your work to keep everyone organized. These are great meetings.
You're more than welcome.
Bye, folks.
Okay, so we'll wait a couple more minutes and we'll turn off the recording and okay, Rita, I think we might as well, looks like the meeting is done and we can turn off the recording.